Hi everybody, welcome to digital art tutorial number 9. Today we're going to be talking about using gradients to colorize a photo or a picture or a drawing. So instead of using the paintbrush tools that we use on the sugar skull, we're going to do something a little bit different. So what I've done here is I've already done some gradient work so you could see how cool it looks and how smooth it looks if you were to apply this as a color over this graffiti 1 drawing. I'm going to turn that off and I'm just going to go ahead and get rid of this layer. So what I've done is I brought in our graffiti 1 layer, I've turned it to multiply again so you can see through it. It gets rid of the white and leaves the black lines. You're going to make a new layer, drop it below, and I'm going to call this layer hat. So I like for you to keep in mind that we always want to name our layers. Excuse me. That way you can work on multiple layers, and if you want to do something in the background, you can keep the hat above the background layer or vice versa, and it won't get blended in together. So I do recommend that you do the hat on one layer, the eyes on another layer, the face on another layer, glasses on another layer, and you kind of break it down and name your layers like this. The first thing we want to do is make sure that we are saving our document correctly. File, save as, and you want to save it as an acorn document under graffiti 1, desktop. I'm going to go ahead and save that. And now I'm going to go over to these tools which are called marquee tools or free select tools. They look like little ants walking around. The ones I use the most are probably the freeform and the polygon tool. So if you're clicking something where you need straight edges, you'll use this one. If you want to free draw around something organic like this, you'll use the free select. I'm going to click on that and I'm going to zoom in here to the bill of the hat. And notice I am on the bottom layer and I want to go ahead and select. I'm going to click and drag this dotted line around the object and the shape that I want to select. I'm going to make it all the way back to the beginning, and I'm going to go down to this tool right here next to the T tool, which is called the gradient tool, and I'm going to go to the left to right gradient. You've got all these options you can play with here. If you click on that gradient, you have a black to white. If I click left to right and drag out, you'll see I've got a nice little shade or shadow effect there. If I click left to right, it will come this way. If I do up to or bottom to top, and top to bottom. So it depends on how you're dragging this gradient out. I'm going to go left to right so it's darker towards the cap. And if for some reason you don't really like this, it's a little too dark or not dark enough, you can always change up here. You can bring this a little bit closer and try it again if you want it more spread out. Or you can take the black area farther to the right and it will be a little bit more of a harsh shadow. So I'm going to keep it like that. Now in order for me to move on, I have to deselect this line because whatever is inside this line is being adjusted with nothing else. I'm going to hit Command D to deselect. And I'm going to go ahead and save every time I do any moves, and I'm going to continue on the hat layer. So let's go ahead and select this little piece here. I'm going to make his hat very colorful. I'm going to grab that free select tool, click around the next shape. Come all the way back down, back to the beginning. And I'm going to go to my gradient tool. I'm going to save this gradient because I like what I did here. In order to save it, click the little plus sign and it will save down here in your palette. And let's say, well, let's do green to, maybe green to white. So I'm going to go up here, I'm going to change this to green. I'm just going to click on that little tab right here and it'll change your color. Let's do maybe a dark green. Let's try this one. And I'm going to go from from bottom to top and see how that looks. Just click and drag up. Alright, maybe I want it to have a little bit more of a darker green. So here's what I'm going to have to do. I'm going to have to add another color. If you click right there, it'll add another color, and I'm going to change that to a darker green. Slide it left, come up here to a darker green. Maybe we'll do let's do a purple, like a dark purple. It's already kind of there. And then try that again. Click, drag, and go up like this. Maybe move my purple out a little bit and try that again. Click, drag, come up. There we go. I kind of like the way that looks. All right, Command D to deselect. And you can kind of see what we've got going on already. You're creating, again, a nice color combination just by kind of going around here. Let's go ahead and do the remainder of this piece of the hat, and then I want to show you how I'm going to do the eye on a different layer, and then from that point it'll just be experimenting. So I do like what I have here. I'm going to save it, click the plus sign, and there it goes right down there. I've already saved a little flesh tone that we'll use in a second. And you go back to your select tool, make sure you're on your hat layer, and I'm going to go around this shape here. All the way around. If you mess up, just start it back over. Not a big deal. Just Command D to deselect. And let's go to our gradient, and let's try something maybe a little bit pop of color. Maybe we'll do an orange. Just going to kind of play around with colors here. Maybe we'll do an orange to yellow. Orange, yellow. Click on that. Orange, yellow to white. Let's try that. Yeah, that's pretty cool. And Command D to deselect. So you can see kind of what I'm going with here. I'm going to go with a really colorful cap. And let's say I've got the cap done and I'm saving my work, Command S, and I want to start on the eyeball layer. I'm going to come here, make a new layer. I'm going to drop this layer. I'll leave it where it's at, and I'm going to name it eyeball or eye. And now I'm going to come in here and select this. Now here's where you can use the circle selection. So you have a circle selection. If you click it, if you hold down Shift, I'm going to start at the left corner because it's going to drag out. Hold Shift and click, it'll make a perfect circle. I'm going to get it pretty close. I'm going to let go, and then I'm going to use my up and down arrows on my keyboard to center it with the eyeball. Like so. And I'm going to add a gradient that's going to go behind this black here, and we're going to make it a blue gradient, like a blue eye here. So let's go to our gradient option. We're going to do, I think for this case, I'm going to use a radial gradient. So if I click this, and I make this blue, there you go, make that blue, and I'm going to make this one white. It's more of a purple. Let's change it to more of a blue color. Here we go. And so that means blue on the middle and white on the outside. I'm going to switch those. Drag the white all the way over, drag the blue all the way over, and now you've got them switched. So you have the white in the middle and the blue on the outside. If I click and drag out, you can see how it comes from the middle. It's a really cool little option. And as you drag, you'll get a nicer fade. I think I want something like this. So I'm going to click Command D to deselect. And notice I want white right here, right? I want that to stay white. You can use your paintbrush tool if you'd like. Go back up to your paintbrush tool, change your color to white, get a paintbrush about the same size. Make sure your opacity is 100% so it's full white, and just start painting right over that. Maybe I want to add another little highlight. I'm going to go up to my top layer. There we go. Add another little highlight like that. So let's turn this off so we can see what we're doing here. See, we're just making blocks of gradient colors. We have an eyeball layer, we have a hat layer, and we would just keep going. Now, if you wanted to do a background, obviously your background layer is going to have to be on the very bottom. So let's just show you as an example. Let's zoom in. We're going to go ahead and make a new layer. Let's call it background, and we're going to drop it way down below the hat. And we're going to call this a background layer. And maybe we want, let's see what we would like for our background. Let's go to our gradient option. I mean, you could go crazy. You could do the rainbow gradient if you wanted to, and you could click and drag it. And boom. So you can see how everything you've done is on top of what you've done. So obviously you would have the face and the rest of the hat done. But you can see how you can get some kind of cool options just in the background as long as you're below everything. There's all kinds of cool stuff you can play with to get a cool background. Maybe we want to come in here, click and drag out. Lots of different options. Remember, you can always change these colors at any time. They've even got a rainbow gradient like this. Maybe if I click and drag down, there we go. So again, notice how my other layers are on top, so they're not being covered up because my background layer is on the bottom. This is just going to take some practice, so I want you to have a good time with this. Only use gradients, try not to use paintbrushes unless you're doing little highlights like I did there. But the whole goal is to use gradients for color so that you have the paintbrush option and the gradient option in order to digitally paint. Thank you for watching.